Hello, everybody. Mr. H here with you. And now we're going to talk about Western Europe. We were talking about colonization, how England and I'm sorry, not England, how Spain and Portugal led the way. And you're wondering what happened to England and France? I mean, they're going to make some colonies over here, the whole Revolutionary War thing and everything. Well, Spain and Portugal had the lead because they'd spent the last 700 years fighting against the Muslims. So any extended war tends to strengthen a government and unify a nation. That's why you don't have problems with rebellious dukes in Spain or Portugal, because they're busy focusing on an outside enemy. So Spain becomes unified in 1492. Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile get married, unify those into Spain. Portugal's already rolling. England and France, in the meantime, are knocking the snot out of each other. It might be the Renaissance, but people still fight each other, especially when it comes to England and France. Take a look at this. In 1200, England has conquered most of France. They might end up taking the whole thing. They've even started over here in Ireland. Well, life goes on, and they start concentrating on taking Wales and Ireland and kind of forgot about France. And France, of course, has taken back most of their land. In 1340, English are back on a roll again. And up here, Scotland, causing all kinds of problems. But it's England versus France, and this thing's been going on since 1066 in the Battle of Hastings when William the Conqueror showed up. Here we are. William the Conqueror of Normandy conquers England 1066 in the Battle of Hastings. Now, here's why everything goes insane. Now, William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, is a vassal to the King of France. He has conquered England, become the King of England. So therefore, the King of England is a vassal to the King of France, correct? Yeah, that's how the French see it. The English don't see it that way, and here we go, 800 years of fighting each other. Now, the English, they kind of get out underneath the Normans, absorb them, eventually chase them out. But, each side thinks they claim the other guy's throne. Well, they tried to do it peacefully one time. You have Henry II, came to the throne in 1159. He married Eleanor of Aquitaine. Aquitaine is in southwestern France. So King of England, Duchess of Aquitaine is supposed to unify England and France in 1152. He's not quite king yet. They're trying to get out ahead of the problem. Henry could be a bit of a dictator. It doesn't work because England and France just don't like each other. Richard the Lionheart, of course, is Henry's son. Oh, does this sound familiar? Yeah, you've heard these guys before. Where's Richard the Lionheart spent most of his time? Yeah, in the Middle East, fighting in a crusade. So he's really not home to try and make this French-English merger thing work. And while he's gone, we've got his brother, King John, who has no problem being a dictator like the old man. He tries to conquer France. He needs money to do it. They lose a battle called the Battle of Bovines in 1214. They're on the edge of taking Paris, couldn't do it. He comes back and says, I need more tax money, and the nobles aren't going for it. They force King John to sign the Magna Carta. Now, it's the beginning of Parliament. It's not a representative Parliament like the way you think about it. Basically, all the duchies are being represented by the nobles. That's your representation for you. But at least it's a check on the king. The king just can't go and do whatever he wants. If he needs tax money, he has to pass it through Parliament. So it's the beginning. It's not perfect, but we got to start somewhere. Reaffirms traditional rights and liberties we have today, and we still argue about those too. Welcome to Earth. Always an argument going on somewhere. Now, what's happening in France? You know this guy too, Philip Augustus. He's not handing his throne over to somebody. Not this guy. Augustus, ego problem. He's on the throne from 1180 to 1223. He's going to be there for a while. He operates out of Paris. Paris, north central part of the country on the Seine River. Can move back and forth to fight against the English. This is why it becomes the capital of France. Now, fighting against England is what unifies France. It keeps the nobles occupied and out of trouble sometimes. Remember we said about Spain? Fight against an enemy for a long time, it unifies the country. Same thing's happening here with France. Everyone's focused on fighting against England, so they actually listen to what Philip Augustus has to say. So you don't get the usual problems with the out-of-control nobles. We already mentioned here the Battle of Bouvines over here in 1214. England is about to defeat France. All it needs is one big battle and it's all over for France. Doesn't happen. The French defeat the English very badly. And because of this, King John needs money, has to run back to England for money and get another army, and the nobles aren't going for it. So it's kind of a 1200s version of Battle of Tours. Saves France. 1215, of course, the French get massacred at a place called Avincourt from English archers, but they merely lose a battle. They don't lose their country. Bouvines, they could have lost the whole country right there. And we already mentioned earlier the English defeat of Bouvines forces King John to go sign the Magna Carta. Just because he signs the Magna Carta doesn't mean the war's over. Nope, they might not get along 100%, the nobles and King John, but they see eye to eye when it comes to fighting with France. What's going on over in Germany? Another guy you've seen before, Frederick Barbarossa. Remember him? Yeah, drowned in a stream in Anatolia, taking a bath. Well, remember the Holy Roman Empire? Well, he's trying to turn this to a real thing. He's got the title, and he says, I'm turning this into the German Empire. So he's going to make an actual empire centered on Germany, trying to get the German dukes and nobles under control. Not that easy, especially when you gallop off to go fight in a crusade and drown. He drowns and his sickly son, Henry VI, takes over. He figures if he can't, pull everybody together by force of arms, he's going to do it by marriage. Marriage Constance, the heiress to the kingdom of Sicily. So he figures, I can unite Germany and Italy and make this Holy Roman Empire a real thing. He's only around for 7 years. He dies in 1197, and he's got his young son Frederick II as his successor. What happened to Constance? She's kind of an absentee mom. So he ends up as a ward of the Pope. Now, Frederick II is not a papal puppet. He's actually his own guy, very independent. But he's not a very good German emperor because, first of all, he's Italian at heart. He's lived in Italy his whole life. Remember, ward of the Pope. And he's only 16, so not only is he a teenager, he's an Italian teenager. Great! Spend the whole day cruising up and down the beach in your Vespa. Of course, Vespa hasn't been invented yet, so I guess we gotta run with the horse. But he never spends any time in Germany, and Germany descends into chaos, which it will not reemerge from until the 19th century. And you're in the 13th. Yep, Germany is going to be very chaotic for a while. When they do finally get it together, it's bad news for a lot of people. Here's half the reason Germany can't get united. How many of these little duchies and dukes and things do you see here? This is going to be Austria one day. Up here's Prussia. Well, that name sound familiar? Austria sounded familiar over here. It's going to be Czechoslovakia. They told me there are 338 little duchies and baronies and things here. I'll take their word for it because I am not going to spend all this time counting those. And they elect their emperor. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're going to elect the emperor. Have an electoral college. What could possibly go wrong? Well, you see what went wrong when it looks like this. What do you think happened when it looks like that? Looks like a Western omelet somebody dropped on the floor. Eventually, the Habsburgs over here in Austria, they're going to rig the election so, that they win almost every 99.9% of the Holy Roman Emperor elections all the way up until the 1800s. So Austria is going to be running the Holy Roman Empire. Good luck, they can't control it either. Wait till Prussia shows up. Of course, that's in the 19th century. So Germany is going to be chaos. Italy's chaos just because it's Italy. We have an electoral college that doesn't work most of the time. They end up having to rig the whole thing. Germany is just one big mess. Back to England again. I like the English. They're great people. They gave us Gordon Ramsay, Mr. Bean, the Monty Python show. But the dark side of England is these people, they really seem to enjoy conquering. These are the guys who are going to have the British Empire, the nation where the empire where the sun never sets. And it's true because it's 1/4 of the world. But you got to start somewhere, and they're starting on their own island here. You have to go after Scotland and Wales, and let's hop across at Ireland while we're at it. This is the movie Braveheart. Edward Longshanks over here, William Wallace. All about Scotland, yes, it's a true story, albeit somewhat exaggerated, but it's based on true events. So England, before they decide to embark on conquering 1/4 of the planet, has to start on their own island. They're going after Scotland first. Eventually they will defeat Scotland. Eventually they will absorb Scotland. But it ain't happening in 1305. It's going to take a while. English, if they're not fighting the Scottish, who else are they going to fight? You bet it. If it's not the Scottish or the Irish, it's the French. And here we are, the 100 Years' War. And how long does this war last? Here's a guess, 100 years. A very, very long time. You thought the Peloponnesian War lasted a long time. Look at this. The war kicks off in 1337. England in green, France is orange stuff. See this thing in southwest France? Remember Eleanor of Aquitaine? All right, England owns that because they inherited it. And you use that as a beachfront to push in. 1429, they're attacking from the north. Look at this, they're about to win. They may actually end up conquering France. 1429, Siege of Orleans. Joan of Arc is going to show up. Remember that name. Because of her, this map is going to turn into that. And France is going to be saved. Now, why did this war even begin? Well, like you said, they got the competing claims on each other's throne. France claims England, England claims France. Also, Flanders up here, or Belgium today, that's the center of the textile market in all of Europe. Where all the textiles are, it's where you send your stuff, it's where it's made. Big money in this era. Plus, look at where this place is located. Anything here is a natural jumping off point for an invasion of England. So anything happening in Belgium, Flanders, Netherlands, England is going to know about it. It's their early warning system. Edward III, of course, has a claim on the throne of France. We know about the textiles market in Flanders. Call it Belgium if you like. I've already told you how Belgium is a natural staging ground for any invasion of England. Look at this. English, redcoats already starting. Redcoats, over here are the French. It's a perfect example of the law of unintended consequences, because nobody goes in thinking they're going to fight a war that's going to last for 4 generations. Nope, England went into this war thinking, we'll win this thing, it'll be over real fast. France thinks we'll just repel the invasion, that'll be that. Nope, it's going on for a very, very long time. Did not see that coming, either side. Now, did they fight every single day for every single year between 1337 and 1453? No, they didn't. Because you're thinking a total war. You grew up in the 21st century where people fighting it goes on every day. Well, even by medieval standards, they had to take a break somewhere in the middle of the 1300s. Want to take a guess why? Yeah, the Black Death, the bubonic plague has spread and hit Europe. Started, we think, in southern China. Other people will posit it began out on the Mongolian steppes. Came over the Silk Road. Mongols might have brought it with them. Of course, they were hurling dead people over the wall at Italian forts in the Crimea, trading posts belonging to Genoa. They come back to Italy, and the disease epicenter begins in Italy. Fleas biting rats, and and the whole thing goes from there. And it just spreads out of control from Italy right along the trade routes. Western Europe gets hit pretty bad. 1/3 of the population dies. They thought it was end of days. Can't say I blame them. It didn't hit Eastern Europe quite as bad because people are more spread out over there. Greece came out of it, and the Balkans came out fairly intact, except for Constantinople, big city, everybody crammed together. Greece itself got, mountains and villages, so instead of thousands of people dying, a couple dozen die, and everybody else gets an immunity. So eventually this thing also finds a way over the trade route, hits the Middle East, eventually makes its way over to Africa. We know this because the records in Africa suddenly stop at about this time. Why do you think they stopped? Yeah, people writing them are dead before it starts up again. So the Black Death / bubonic plague was really bad news. Worked out great if you're a laborer because, 1/3 of competition's dead, the other third's sick. So, hey, you get to charge more. Just don't breathe so much. Have a rag over your face. Maybe you should work in the countryside. Well, when the disease dies out, England and France go back after it again, kind of like halftime. Remember that map I showed you, 1429? England might actually end up conquering France. Nothing is working for the French. They are failing on every front. Here comes Joan of Arc, 16 years old, says God has commanded her to take command of the French army. Well, nothing else is working. Why not? When you're desperate enough, even the ridiculous looks like it might work. And guess what? It works. Joan of Arc rallies everybody at Orleans, chases the English back. Eventually, she'll be captured by the English and burned at the stake for being a witch. But, hey, still got to win. Don't forget this lady, do you? She's one of the greatest generals in French history. Joan of Arc and Napoleon. What do they both have in common? Neither one's a Frenchman. Yep, he's from Corsica. That's our little French joke for the day. I'm just being obnoxious. I like the French. I don't hate anybody except Cowboy fans and Raven fans. Now, this is happening in the backdrop of the Renaissance. It might be the Renaissance, but, there's still the usual fighting and suffering and wars and diseases. Everything's happening. The dictionary definition of Renaissance is as follows. A rebirth of European art and culture led by a rediscovery of ancient Greek and Roman learning, also leading to an era of scientific inquiry and discovery from roughly the 14th century to the 16th or 17th century. People becoming interested in art again. Literacy is spreading. It used to be about 10% literacy in Europe. Even some of the nobles were illiterate. Now it's starting to spread where everybody can at least write their name. Scientific inquiry. What's this gunpowder stuff do? Hey, let's make a musket out of this thing. Also learning how to control disease. Here's an idea. Stop throwing sewage in the street. So a lot of things are happening, and they're starting to look at the outside world, including perhaps maybe we should sail west to reach the east. There's something to think about. I'm sure something will come of that. But the Renaissance, it wasn't something people were aware was happening. It wasn't like you wake up in Tuscany in the year 1462 and say, hey, I'm living in the Renaissance. Now, rebirth of Greek and Roman learning, it might have been kickstarted, believe it or not, by the Crusades. Makes perfect sense because the Greek and Roman classics, once the Muslims overran those places, were translated from Greek and Latin into Arabic, and of course when the Crusaders and people with them pick it up and bring it back to Europe, it's translated from Arabic into English, French, German, Italian, what have you. And like I said, it might have been the Crusades bringing stuff back from the Crusades, along with occasional diseases. Now, this affected the 1% of society more than anything else, the super rich, but it trickled down, particularly when it came to literacy. Now, the driving force behind the Renaissance is humanism, the liberal arts, embracing grammar, rhetoric, poetry, even history. How about that? Politics and moral philosophy, classical literature, the Odyssey and the Iliad come back after being gone for a while. So, a lot of things going on. This isn't nuts and bolts stuff. This is what they call quote-unquote higher learning, though I don't really like that title very much. It's all good, right? I mean, somebody has to make a toilet. I like toilets. So anyways, all kick-started by the Crusades. Now, why is Italy the epicenter of the Renaissance? Take a look at a map. It's right there in the middle. The trade routes, everything comes to Italy. It'll make its way up into Northern Europe, and we have a Northern Renaissance. It's centered in Germany. Why Germany? Look at the map. Exactly, it's in the middle. Italy first, spreads, and our second Renaissance, Northern Renaissance, is going to be in Germany because Italy and Germany are both in the middle. So that's what's happening in Western Europe. And the whole time we're getting closer to making contact with the New World. It's going to be France. It's going to be Spain and Portugal first, then England, France, and the Dutch are going to get involved in on it. So a bit here, a bit there, we're getting closer to 1492, and when the old world reaches out to join hands with the new world for better or for worse, that day is approaching. Have a great day, everyone.